Mr. Coughlin,
Here.
Mr. Chandler,
Here.
Zoe, Miss Francis Kraft,
Here.
Miss Shalima Blue, Miss Grimes,
Here.
Dr. Hardy,
Hey, I'm here.
Miss Harris,
I'm here.
Mr. Henry,
Here.
Miss Saber,
Here.
Dr. Johnson,
Here.
Miss Jones McLeod,
Here.
Miss McQueen,
Here.
Dr. Morrison,
Here.
Caspian, Mr. Poe,
I'm here.
Miss Sakima. Oh my gosh. In my mind, I have it right every time and it comes off wrong.
Sakiyama, she's not here.
Thank you. Miss Starks Turner, Miss Steffens,
Here.
Miss Parker,
Here.
and Mr. Bean. Thank you.
Gail,
Yes.
let's see. I would welcome a motion for the approval of the minutes from January 2022.
I need a first and a second.
This is Melanie. I move to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you.
I will second.
And who is that, please?
This is Orson Morrison.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And Gail, do we have any visitor comments this
We do
evening?
not. Yes, we do not.
Okay, perfect. So we can move right into our circle. And there's been a lot going on, and I was not here last meeting. I want to thank Dr. Hardy and Linda and Dr. Johnson for holding it down last month in my
And Lincoln
absence.
Chandler. And Lincoln Chandler.
I'm sorry, and Lincoln, of course. Where's Lincoln? Why am I- He's here. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you. And Lincoln, thank you, team, for holding it down in my absence. Yeah, I'm glad to be here tonight. And so I thought that we would do a well-being check-in. Okay, a couple of reasons. One, we're going to be talking about the behavior education plan, and that has a lot to do with well-being. And two, there's been a lot going on. We've had a snow day. We've had COVID. We still have COVID. Like, things aren't done. So I thought that we would just do a check-in on how are you? Like, how are you feeling? Well-being check, are you making it? I'll start us off and I'll pass, and then you just pass to someone else, and I'll keep track that we go through the list. I am hanging in there. That is my phrase, and that is what I'm sticking with. I'm hanging in there. It's there's a number of challenges in a number of areas in my world right now. So yeah, so I'm hanging in there. And I'm going to pass to Faith Cole.
Gina, I actually like that, hanging in there. I have a 13-year-old now, as of a week ago, but a lot of celebrations, but then a lot of other things that are, difficult happening right now, but I'm also hanging in there. I will turn that next one over to Shalima. Welcome back, Shalima.
Thank you, Faith, and welcome back, everybody, after not seeing you for the break that I was on. I think the check-in, I would say, is it is amazing being a parent and a new parent, because you learn a lot about what you thought you were and what you're absolutely not. I thought I was fresh to death before I had twins and I could do anything. And they have quickly let me know you are actually not. So, but I love the space we're in, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving. So I think that's what I'll say to check in, and I'll pass it over to Patrick.
We have two Patricks.
Dr. Hardy.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Shalima. congratulations again and welcome back. I appreciate the question. I was hoping to not be first, second, or third. So thank you again, Shalima, because I don't know how I'm doing, Board Member Harris. I am explaining to in family conversations, explaining to my Black children why you can't sleep on the couch in your house without being assassinated and executed. I am explaining to my children once again why you can't be 12 years old and wear a Black Lives Matter swimsuit to a swim meet and risk being disqualified, only to find out later that there was no disqualification, as you simply tried to humanize a very serious situation. And so I'm tired, and it's not physical. Orson, Dr. Morrison.
Thank you, Dr. Hardy. Really resonated with your share and very similar to the share that I'm about to give. You know, as a mental health professional, I'm holding a lot and trying to support many people in this time. As a Black mental health professional, I feel like the heaviness is just intensified. And as a Black man, I'm really tired as well. I'm just really, really, really tired. And some days are really difficult. So I also appreciate the question. I will pass it to Laura.
Hi, everybody. I have also, I think, been feeling the weight of everything that is going on right now and recognizing that I'm in a very different position than Patrick and Dr. Morrison, but also just feeling the challenges of addressing those things and managing things that are going on in my own family and just feeling overwhelmed. So I will pass to Patrick Poe.
For me, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm different than most folks. I think with my background, working in a penal institution, I've kind of learned to deal with things differently than most folks. That's not to say that I'm not affected. But for the most part, just trying to remain hopeful, looking for change, unity, hoping that things get better, hoping that things turn around, and hoping that in the end, everyone will be okay, regardless of where they're going, what they're going through, how they're going through. I just try to remain hopeful. But for me, that's not to say I'm not affected by things, but I'm I guess it's God-given ability to be able to let stuff bounce off of me without affecting me, but being mindful that I too can be affected. So that's my thing, just remaining hopeful that things will get better. I will pass it to Susan.
Thank you. I would say I'm on a roller coaster and go up and down, and I'm holding my own. I'm still hanging on, and fighting for that hope that Patrick, you just shared. That I just keep fighting for it. But it's very bleak. And also being in the generation that I'm in, I have great concerns for the grandchildren that are coming into our family now. Anyway, and I also just want to say, in present time, being with this group of people, I feel honored and privileged to be here with you and participate in the small way that I can and to listen. So thank you for your presence, and thank you for allowing me to be in this space with you.
Who are you passing to, Susan? Who are you passing to? Oh, you muted yourself. There you go.
What's that?
You keep muting yourself when you say the person's name.
Sherilyn.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to still piggyback off of Susan and say that I've been on a roller coaster. I've had a lot of ups in the last few weeks, a few downs. My family suffered a loss, as well as our communal losses as a Black community, as a society. And so there are days that I wake up and I'm really excited about the trajectory I'm moving into, but also very saddened by the loss we've experienced in my family, as well as our global losses and constant fear for my own children, my Black athletic daughter and my Black son, who is becoming a young man. And as they navigate the world and trying to not be a helicopter parent, but also make sure that they're safe. So roller coaster. I will pass to Karen Grimes.
Oh, I'm already unmuted. Yeah, I think that just personally, I have been very concerned about COVID and have started isolating myself again, which is not good for anybody's mental health. But I also am a therapist, so I'm able to see people remotely, but it's difficult. I think to try to address what others in this space have to deal with that I, with my white skin, don't have to deal with. I have been working with some white accountability groups, which feels like it's a positive move. I'm always taken aback by what comes out of people's mouths in those groups, and so it's always kind of a work in progress, but something that is possible to at least do. So I'm going to pass to Greg Johnson.
All right, I am Greg Johnson, so I will respond. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's good to see everybody. I'll start this really quickly by saying I'm responding to this question from my house, which tells you a little bit about kind of where I'm at. Pretty much all meetings that I've had in the evening all school year, I've been at school. I was just of the mindset at about 5:30, 5:45 today, no, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this in the comfort of this kind of comfortable chair I'm in right now, because how I feel, and the truth is I'm feeling frayed. I'm staying the course and I'm feeling steady, but I'm feeling frayed. There's a lot that is going on in schools in the world, much of which has been already shared tonight right now, but it all seems to converge and center around the place that we want to educate our youth. And so that's just the reality of it. And the folks that I'm looking in this call, and I'm going to just pause for a moment and take a look at the people that I work with on a daily basis. You all have really stayed in it, and you are grinding and bringing it every single day to OPRF. And I am honored and proud to be working with you, teachers, administrators, all my other colleagues that I'm working with. Sherilyn, I miss you. But I tell you what, people are bringing it. So thank you. But it doesn't stop you from feeling frayed. So I'm thankful to be at home right now. Thank you.
Who are you passing to, Greg?
My apologies, Gina. I should have thought, let's see, who has not been? Francis, have you been called on? All right, Francis Kraft.
It's Greg Johnson. Yeah, great question. I think I'm somebody who always, it's like, fine, everything's good. But in a lot of community spaces I'm in, I think a lot of people have hit a wall, and I personally have hit a wall, and dealing with illness in my family and some deaths in my husband's family. And so, yeah, it's a really hard time. I really appreciate this space because of the honesty.
How's your mom? She's watching dogs.
Yeah, give her a hug for me. It's long overdue. She recovered. She's
Cal,
feeling
can
better.
someone mute Cal?
Good, good. How's Jocelyn?
Yeah, so thank you for this space. It's really good to see you all. And I just feel like it's such a space of warmth and healing. And I will call on, I saw Sebastian here. Sebastian.
Hi, yeah, I'm Sebastian. I'm a visitor, and I guess I'm happy. So I'm a student, and I'm happy to be able to attend OPF right now. And I guess I do to a certain degree feel the burden of COVID-19 still while being a student at OPF. So yeah, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you so much for being here, Sebastian. I think who hasn't gone yet? We've got Linda, no, Kabri, Melanie. Let's go to Melanie.
Hey, Happy New Year to everyone who I didn't see last meeting. Hi, Gina, good to see you. I'm physically, fine, but it's Black History Month. It's February the 9th. And every day I ask my kids, what did you guys do in school today in regards to Black History Month? And whether something was done or not, they tell me nothing. So being a part of one of the staples in the Oak Park community, Coomba Kids, which I was hoping you guys were proud of me. I actually got to change my picture this time to where it doesn't say that, for 15 years. And being a volunteer for that time to help in any capacity for Black History Month within District 97 or District 200. And to still hear that we're not doing things on a much grander scale. So I'm frustrated. There were things that were implemented in my daughter's middle school that were watered down, that upset me, frustrated me. I'm not understanding why it's February 9th and we're still having conversation about planning for Black History Month and what we can do. And it's frustrating because we don't have an issue, from my standpoint, celebrating other cultures, putting funds aside for other cultures and days. And Black History Month just still doesn't seem to get the respect that I feel it deserves. So on this day, February the 9th of Black History Month, I'm very frustrated.
Thanks, Melanie. I think we have Kabrib hasn't gone yet either.
So the question is, how am I feeling, just generally speaking?
Yeah, it's a well-being
right.
check. How are you doing? Yep.
Thank God for therapy tools and meditation, right? I'll say I'm balanced, kind of, because I have to. We have no choice. My nephew's actually staying with me. He's 20, turned 21. He's up here with me now because of it wasn't good for him in Florida, so he's here, which is okay. I used to say I was tired and exhausted with what was going on in the media, but another young Black man shot and murdered in bed or on the couch. Not that I'm desensitized to it, but I realize if I owned all those emotions so deeply, it would drive me crazy like it used to. So I'm balanced. Am I frustrated? Sure. Is it? I don't allow myself to feel those emotions of anger so much. I just can't. So that's why I spend more time meditation, spend more time trying to think of the positive, reflecting on being grateful, whatever I can do. But in this present moment, tired, but I'll say balanced.
Thanks, Kabrib. I think we still have, thank you, Kabrib. I think we still have Linda.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm lately just been channeling music to help me just stay centered so that I can continue to serve the populations that I have to serve. And so my music tonight is Mary J. Blige in honor of my mother, who would tell me, girl, be fine and get on with it. I'm just fine. I'll pass on to Lincoln, did you go yet?
Thanks, Linda. Good evening, everybody. I appreciate the space. I think, well, a lot of these things resonate with me, but I'm going to say that do have gratitude. I'm grateful for this space. I have a lot to be. There's a lot of things I feel cynical about sometimes, but at the same time, I feel like I still feel motivated to continue to do everything I can and use what platforms I have to try to be an agent of change and not give up. And so I'm grateful for that because, yeah, it's a lift. A lot of this is a lift, but like I said, I'm thankful and I'm grateful to have folks like you and my faith to lean on in these times. I don't know if JP spoke.
Thank you, Lincoln. I am, well, one, this is tugging at my heartstrings hearing everybody here. I'm really excited as this is the Joshua Dominguez I had in class several years ago. Really, really excited. I've had a really good week in the classroom. Ms. McQueen, I've been, teaching Black history in my American and world history classes every day this month, but also every day throughout the year. It's not just February. It's Black history is American history. But if this is my Josh, I'm really excited because I have not seen or had him in class in many years. I'm looking forward to hearing from him.
Yeah, it's me.
Well, Josh, I think we're passing to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good so far. Just relaxing. Just got out of track about an hour and 30 minutes ago. So, just trying to relax and recover right now.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight. Sana, did you go yet?
I would say kind of the word I'm focusing on for the new year is harmony, where like usually balance is a hard word. So like harmony is kind of my inspiration. And I would say something for me that's bringing me joy is that my mom is actually leaving the country next week to do a mini spiritual pilgrimage in Mecca, which is huge for Muslims. And so I'm giving her all my prayer lists and I'm confident all of them will be answered. So yeah, so that has been kind of fulfilling my heart.
Wow. And I think Janelle.
Could you add my name to the prayer list, please?
I got you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I am sometimes hanging, but it's really become precariously dangling by a thread, but also trying to be more grateful because it could be worse. So I am trying to pay more attention to the things that are, because they could be worse. So I have many, many things to be grateful for, and I am just trying to more regularly remind myself of that.
Thank you, Janelle. And I think, Cal, I think you're our last person to share on the committee, but Lisa and Gail, you're always welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just think I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this committee. I'm grateful for other committees that I'm on where people are trying to get together and share ideas. My family's healthy this year. I was just at my daughter's string recital at Roosevelt. That went well. My saying for the year is everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Once you get past jump over that fear hurdle, make a decision, make a move, buy the car, buy the house. Let's make a decision and send it to the board. That's the fear part, and everything else after that just works itself out. So all we got to do is get past that fear hurdle.
Thank you, Cal. And thank you. Lisa and Gail, want to say anything?
I will just say that I am on the tail end of COVID. which has been a very difficult struggle. And I do have thoughts and concerns about the future of how people treat each other and the environment itself. So those are really big things that I think about.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. Lisa?
To make it short and sweet, I am constantly learning, increasing my level of understanding, but basically, I'm still breathing.
Thank you, Lisa. And Ed, we know you're here too. How are you doing? And don't feel obligated, Ed. It's okay. At least it says Ed Tang. Is that Ed Tang?
You talk? Yeah, I'm here. You talking to me?
Yeah, how are you doing? You're here. Okay. Nobody's left out of the circle.
Oh, great. Thank you. No, I feel good. It's good to see everybody here expressing their feelings and emotions. And I'm doing well. I'm just trying to keep up with all these virtual events. They're coming up real fast, especially with the since they're not allowing people in the building, you know, outside events. It's every day someone's putting another event on the calendar. So it's keeping me busy. Yep.
Well, thank you, Ed. And thank you for all that you're doing. And honestly, committee, wow, thank you for your honest and authentic check-ins here about where we are. I missed you all a lot last month. And it was hard to not be here. And that's because everyone that's here shares so authentically. And we are fortunate to have some students with us tonight. And that's the whole reason why we're here in the first place, is the students. But I just want to say some of the things that folks said, feeling the weight of everything, tired, trying to be hopeful, on a roller coaster, lost, hanging in there, working on meditating, having music, just frustrated about not enough Black History Month as celebration, trying to be, you know, courageous, constantly learning. All of those things that we're experiencing, our students are experiencing them too. So it's not what we're experiencing is not without the young people in our lives experiencing them as well. So as we have this conversation tonight about the state of the behavior education plan, this is one of the big pieces of our work on CCB. And our recommendations for it, our review of it is an important piece of what we're doing here as a committee on the whole, because it has everything to do with what happens with students when, and what our expectation is of the behavior that cultivates that culture that our students are in while they're in our school. So, and I want to say the behavior and the culture of the students as well as the staff, right? Is what's happening to the students is happening to the adults. There's no, like, it's not two separate things. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Johnson and Dr. Parker are going to go through. I'm just making you Dr. Parker. You know that I keep doing that, Linda. So it's just right. What it is. Like what, right? Unless it's probably going to happen, I guess. So I'm going to turn it over so that they can get us started. And then there were some questions sent out to you all, and they were sent to the students as well, everyone in advance, because once, based on what you hear, we are actually going to hear from students first after we're done with this. So go ahead, Greg.
I really like the idea that this meeting has just become Linda's, official hooding ceremony. I think that's fabulous. So congrats. But Linda, there's really no reason for a bigger introduction. So Linda, go ahead and take it away with your team, okay?
Thank you, Gina, and thank you, Greg. Tonight, we are going to be bringing to you some information about our behavior education plan. It's an update. The purpose of this is to get us prepared for suggestions for changes that we are going to want to bring to CCB so that we can bring those to our board later this school year, but also to just show you how the work has been fitting into our strategic plan in our priority 2 of helping to create a more supportive learning environment and making sure that we're creating a safe and inclusive environment for our students and creating relationships between our students and our adults within our building. So tonight we are joined by our Director of Student Services, Faith Cole, and our lead dean, Janelle, who is also on CCB, in order to bring you these updates. Keep in mind as you are listening, the 3 questions that were sent to you, because we're listening tonight to kind of also talk about what resonates with us within this plan, how this plan has been working for us within the school. Again, so glad Sebastian and Joshi are here tonight and can actually speak from the student point of view as well. So keep that in mind as you're listening to Faith and Janelle speak so that we can have that discourse after they are finished. And I will turn it over to Faith. Faith, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're muted or not.
I apologize. I'm like, I could not find the mute button. My apologies.
No worries. There you go.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I know Linda already introduced me, but just to remind you again, my name is Faith Cole, and I have the honor of serving as the Director of Student Services. So tonight, both myself and the lead dean, Janelle Bishop, are going to give a group an update regarding our behavior education plan. And so I just want to take a moment, though, to thank the group really kind of for your transparency around where folks are feeling right now. And I think to Gina's point that our students are also experiencing this. And so we really want to spend some time kind of talking about what we've experienced thus far and some of our hopes for moving forward, but really look forward to the feedback we have from this group. All right. So as the team already really knows, is one of the biggest focuses at OPRF has been around building those authentic relationships between our staff and our students, as well as between our students and their peers. The behavior education plan was developed to provide a less punitive and more restorative lens to all our disciplinary measures. And I believe the plan was created about 2 years ago with a variety of stakeholders, and it was months and months worth of work and meeting to ensure we really had a dynamic plan. One of the things I want to mention is I'm particularly proud of our dean group because the reason behind this is they come together weekly to problem solve and ensure that we're being consistent and deliberate around our disciplinary practices. So in addition to that, our PSS teams, which are pupil support services, work together as partners around students to provide, again, preventative measures whenever possible to really try to support students before they get to a situation of having a disciplinary infraction. All right, so this year, 2021-2022 school year was actually the first year we were able to fully implement the BEP as well as have our entire student body back in person. And so as you guys know, our students and staff returned to us with varying levels of social emotional needs, as well as some students had experienced trauma and loss, as well as our staff members. And so we began applying the BEP, being mindful that we should have to continue reflecting on our practice and our new procedures. Because as you know how some things are written out, we start to apply them, we understand that there is going to be an opportunity for us to really reflect to see if we need to make adjustments. So taking a look here, one of the things I shared is we're going to talk a little bit about the strengths of the BEP, some of the things after a little over half a year that we're noticing have really worked well and really have supported our students. So again, there's many strengths, and we really have supported this equitable approach to our students, particularly for those that are most impacted by disciplinary measures. And so one of the things, continuing to offer 1 day of in-school reflection for instances such as vaping or substance-related infractions. And again, we feel this is still very appropriate. In addition, when a student has their first fight, resulting in only 1 day of in-school reflection. And also we've increased our efforts around tracking our restorative practices. So how often that's happening, what type of impact is happening, and now how we're able to move forward. In addition to, the BEP has now removed some of those subjective infractions, such as passive and active defiance, and again, leading to less subjective instances of students being punished for various reasons. But we do feel like one of the biggest impacts have been because of our teachers and staff continue to really create a welcoming environment for the school as well as for the school community on a daily basis. Much of the work that happens in the classroom each and every day has really helped to de-escalate behaviors and really help students feel a sense of belonging within their spaces. And we do feel like this impacts the larger infractions of our student body. So just to kind of remind the group, our in-school reflection is where some of our students, depending on the infraction, may spend a day or 2 or 3, depending on the type of infraction. And I would say this is probably something I was particularly impressed by when I joined the OPRF family, was really how we manage students and prepare them to kind of return back into their environment. Mrs. Lush, as well as Mr. Harris, they really provide an environment that allows our students to stay connected to the school, but then they're really building their capacity in the area of social and emotional support. So they're able to continue their schoolwork, receiving academic supports. They spend time throughout their day really kind of reflecting on what happened, repairing the harm whenever possible, but again, getting a chance to kind of really talk to an adult and spend some time really healing from whatever the situation was. Behavior supports are available as needed, as well as the social emotional support. And so our staff is able to provide that within that space, but our social workers, each time we have a student that has an ISR, the direct social worker will come check in with that student typically once or twice a day, again, to give them more time and support throughout the day. But the environment within itself, there's plants in there, it's calming music. It really feels like an environment that is student-centered. There's beanbags and intended really to help students feel like they should, they're still part of our school, that they have a sense of belonging here, and that we're going to work through this and that we value them. So again, as we kind of reflected after over half of a year on the BEP, we do have some recommendations for some slight modifications that we feel could continue to kind of streamline our process and our efforts a bit. And again, as we're applying these things, realizing these might be some areas that we feel could be something that's suggested as modifications. So currently right now, we have a level 2 response, which states that no more than 1 day in-school reflection, resulting in having only 4 levels. So what exactly does that mean? Is that if we have a student currently at level 2, it states that we can have no more than 1 day of in-school reflection. And the reason this is important is because in some situations, our students need more time, whether that is to reflect, to repair harm, or really kind of process the situation. And so right now, currently our level 2 does not allow for us to do that. So as you can see a little bit lower, some of the suggested would be level 1. Like I said, we'd be going down to 4 levels, but it provides a little bit more flexibility around how we're supporting our students. In addition to that, what we're also finding is that currently there are no infractions related to a few other areas that we want to be mindful of as well. And so particularly around pornographic material, and again, we want to be proactive around having these things within our BEP so that this really poses as a transparency thing. So our staff, our students, and our families really know what we expect. But right now we do not have anything in our BEP that really talks about pornographic material, whether that's disseminating that or observing that material as well. In addition, we'd like to add an infraction on failure to serve a detention into the BEP, another one around excessive physical aggression. And one of the things, particularly this is around instead of treating a person where there's 2 or more people fighting or committing violence, more as a threat as an attack, as opposed to a fight being between 2 people as opposed to multiple people.
And Faith, if I could just provide some clarity on that.
Absolutely.
Currently, and just please note that these recommended changes or suggestions are coming as we have day in and day out worked through the current plan. The current plan is brand spanking new, and so one could not expect perfection the first time around. And so as we have worked day in and day out through the plan, these are some bumps that we have run into that caused us to go back and take some notes about things that we would want to talk about. No plan is not, every plan should be revised and assessed and changes made as needed. And so in particular, this particular bullet point around excessive physical aggression, we are currently treating what is viewed as a fight between two people the same way that we treat what used to be viewed as a mob action. So that's two or more people jumping an individual person. We are also treating those two the exact same way as like a physical attack, one person on another, where the person didn't see it coming, that kind of thing. And what we found working through these, having had each of those happen this school year, is while it has been good, and one of the things that we've listed that seems to have worked well, which was a pretty significant change from our previous code of conduct, is the response to just a fight between two people. That used to automatically be 3 days of in-school suspension. With our desire, with all of the responses to behavior in the behavior education plan, to minimize the amount of class time lost, that was reduced to 1 day of in-school suspension, and working really, really hard to get together to have those restorative conversations. But what we have found is these other incidents where it was an attack or where it was, multiple people fighting an individual person, we have saw the need for a bit more time for the people who committed the act to reflect, time for the victim to not have to, see their attackers right back in the hallways, after 1 day. Time for processing, time to provide any additional supports. And so we saw difficulty in treating these 3 acts the same way, with a response of 1 day of in-school reflection. And this really gives a good example about the level change request that Faith mentioned above. If all of these events are level 2 infractions in the current plan, and anything in level 2, as Faith said, you cannot receive anything greater than a day of in-school reflection along with the restorative work that's being done. And so our request, our suggestion is to just allow for level 2 to have that variation of 1 or 3 days of in-school suspension, so that we are able to implement the 2 or 3 days that are needed for these more serious incidents that I've described. If we leave it the way we are, every difficult act, every incident like what I've described will always result in that 1 day of in-school reflection, and that is having an impact on the victim, people feeling like they have a safe learning environment. And so that is really a good example also about the level change that we're requesting.
Thank you, Janelle. I think it also, to kind of piggyback on that as well, is even, to your point around some of the restorative circles that are taking place with families and students. I think the turnaround time for that has been phenomenal around, as quickly as we're able to do that. In some situations, though, to that point, is that sometimes students aren't in a space to start to see each other in the hallway, like Janelle mentioned, or even come into a space where they're ready to start to have those conversations. So I do think the dean team, as well as the social workers, do try to start those restorative conversations as quickly as possible, but also trying to be mindful that the impact on students, the impact on the environment may not be ready to have those the following day.
And also to kind of better illustrate this level change request, with the current plan in its current form, anything involving drugs, the fighting, attacks, multiple person fights, serious threats, use of racial slurs, hazing related behaviors, gang activity, theft, possession of a weapon other than a firearm, all start at the current level 2, which means all of those can only get 1 day of in-school reflection. And we feel that some of them deserve a little bit more time of reflection and processing what happened and teaching some skills to help students not find themselves in this situation again.
We're actually not going to speak to any kind of data this evening specifically. However, I think in this early spring, we'll start to talk a little bit about, comparing past years to kind of infractions for this year, where we're kind of noticing those upticks and where we're kind of seeing some of the decrease in those behaviors. So also some of these recommendations are kind of built around some of the data that we currently have. So next steps, I think we always want to be reflective on our practice, and particularly around how we're kind of improving this experience for our learners, both social, emotionally, and academically. And so some of the current next steps are going to be continuing to kind of reevaluate the BEP each school year to determine if changes are needed. And again, this will be a collective effort, not in a silo. In addition to that, one of the things that is new this year is that we have a panorama screener, which serves as a social emotional screener, which is going to be given, actually it started to be given to all of our students. And the reason this is important is to really identify what the need of our whole school is, kind of our tier 1 need. Because once we have that information, we'll be able to see where we can be proactive with our students and what particular areas. And we're hoping that if we're able to be proactive with our student body, then we may also see decreases in some of these behaviors as well. And then we also believe continue the staff development around that trauma-informed care. We know this is going to be an ongoing need for our students as well as for our staff for years to come. So really being mindful of the type of professional learning we're going to need to continue kind of supporting our students. Because again, we know our students will need something next year very different than they do this year, but really making sure that our staff is equipped to support them kind of based on those needs. So we'd like to open up for questions, feedback. That anybody may have.
So much. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Janelle and team and Linda and everyone. We want to open it up to the students first. We did send those questions and we had some targeted questions that, that we were using. And what do you hear that resonated with you or challenged you? And in what ways do you think that this behavior education plan might improve our school environment? What ways does it not lead to improvement? So I don't know if Josh is still here and Sebastian's still here. So either of you want to have any comments about what we just heard?
I think from my personal experience, it would be good, especially since you get those days of reflections and those days to think about what you've done and everything. I think it's really it'll be really helpful if as the counselors come down, like as she said, 1 or 2 times a day, and just to try to talk to them, conversate with them, and just like see how their mindset has improved from day to day basis, and reflecting and things like that. So I do like the direction that you guys are going with this.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Josh, and I also thought that the idea of building relationships with staff and educators and teachers was very important, and I feel that these relationships can really support students at staying on track with their time at OPF.
Thank you. Thank you both. I want to just follow up with you both just really quickly with one more question. And are there any ways, or in what ways do you think the BEP does not lead to improvement? Is there anything that you feel is not addressing something that you're seeing that might be a need?
Not really, other than because, like I said, speaking from experience, when there is a lot of people in the reflection site, and a bunch of them are like friends and stuff like that, they do get off topic, and they do get off and they do get distracted on what their goal is supposed to be in there. So that's the only thing really.
So Josh, are you saying then when we have friends, let's say they kind of take part in the same infraction, they're all in that space together, that sometimes it's probably not the most conducive to staying focused and really kind of following through with some of those things that we want for that space? Is that
right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sebastian, did you have anything to add?
No, not really. I don't see right now anything that I would think to be that you can improve on the plan that you laid forward. So thank you for asking.
I really appreciate your input. And if you think of things as folks are chiming in, if you think of things that impact, that viewpoints are not, or might be missing something from your viewpoint as students, please do feel free to jump in. Just unmute yourselves and jump in. I'll open it up to the other committee members now.
Can I make a comment before the next question? And just in case, people didn't get a chance to read what was sent beforehand, I want to just point out the significance of a behavior plan such as this one in comparison to the codes of conduct that we have had for, my 20-something years working here, and how drastically different it looks in terms of how we respond to infractions. And there were many thoughts that this was too easy, too lenient, we are going soft on kids, and that these soft, these one-day ISRs were going to lead to, just rampant misbehavior, and the kids, are going to take over the school. And I'm proud to say that is not what we have experienced. So now it was rough to start the school year for a number of reasons, and we mentioned this in the thing we sent in the agenda, but we needed time, right, to adjust. The world needed time to adjust to some type of return to normalcy, right? And our kids were adjusting to being back full-time in school after so long, many of them having been off. And so it was nationwide, schools were describing the discipline struggles that they were having. And we were not, alone in that sense. And so in the beginning, all of us were like, good Lord, like what is going on? I'm sure you've heard of, stuff that happened at games and just all kinds of things. And so we were struggling in the beginning, but it took us taking the time to really dig deep and come to an understanding about what's happening just with everyone. And you couldn't blame, the fact that we had decreased our responses to discipline issues as the reason why we were seeing some of the behaviors that we were seeing. And so the rate of recidivism is not what people thought, right? People thought that, oh, well, if you only give them that one day, they're going to do it over and over and over again. We've had some kids commit some acts that got that one day and reflection and time with the social worker, and we didn't see them again. So things that people expected to happen, I'm proud to say that we are not seeing that. So I just wanted to make sure that piece got shared. Another significant aspect of this plan was the fact that we formally asked teachers to take on more of those lower level behaviors in the classroom. That was really being done pretty widespread before, but we formally said this list of things, can you try with the interventions in your classroom first? And part of that, though, was empowering teachers to create more welcoming communities in their classrooms. And so we talked about norm setting, community agreements, building in the beginning of the school year, things to deepen relationships. We've had lots of circle training over the years. Teachers are doing more circle work in their classrooms. So lots of work around building the relationships so that when harm is done in the classroom, teachers feel more equipped to deal with them. And using the deans as a resource instead of just like sending the kid out to the dean, but using us as a resource. And we've spent a good deal of time talking with teachers, strategizing. Here's what this kid is doing in class. Now, I know you want me to deal with it, but I need help out. And us really providing that PD individually to teachers as they need it. So that has also decreased some of the referrals that we would used to get in loss of class time. So I just wanted to make sure that those things got mentioned because I think they are important, an important part of this conversation.
Thank you so much, Janelle, because over the years of being on this committee, I've seen that. I've actually seen the shift, right, from when I first was on and now. So that the difference and the transition to the relational aspects of it definitely is noticed. And thank you for mentioning that. I saw, Karen, that you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to first start with commending the staff for this wonderful transition in approach to behavior. It's not been easy, I'm sure, and it's just remarkable the work that you've put into it. Just in reacting, I'm pleased to hear that there's more tracking going on of the responses to this. I think over the years of being on CCB, that's been a push from CB, to have more tracking so that you can really see and make decisions based on tracking. So I think that's wonderful. Another thing I'd like to say is that you've juggled having to deal with comparing two variables in that you're rolling out this new plan at the same time that you're coming back from COVID, which is a whole nother thing. I've heard from social workers in many districts. I mean, this is a countrywide problem, behavior issues, kids coming back to the classroom. This is not just an OPRF thing. So to have to judge this new plan at the same time you're coming back from COVID with all this behavior isn't really fair to the plan, I think, but just to say that. And then I also am pleased actually with the revision that you're suggesting to make more distinctions within level 2, to give the same response to quite different levels of seriousness within the same level, and then to get the same kind of response, I think, doesn't make sense to me as an adult, and to kids, I don't think that makes sense either. And then to have, like you're saying, a victim have to see or to respond within one day when they're not ready also isn't fair to the kids. So I really commend you, but those are some of my initial comments.
Thank you, Karen. I thought I saw a hand up, but maybe I didn't. Other comments? Go ahead, Orson.
Yeah, I also really want to commend you all for this work. It is really, really impressive. For me, I heard a very healing-centered, student-centered approach that I think if executed as the way it's intended, I think is really going to create some really profound cultural changes in the environment. I think that even in sort of tying it back to some of the things that we were sharing in the beginning of the meeting, like we need to prepare our kids to handle conflict and to handle difficult things in a different way. Clearly, the way in which we've been approaching our youth and our world has not been working. And so this sort of a model where people are able to sort of pause and really reflect on what they've done and take time to heal is, I think, really, really impressive. A very, very sort of growth-oriented, growth mindset, relational, healing-centered approach. So thank you.
Thank you. I see Felicia and then Linda.
Yes, thank you. And I did come in late because I was coming from another meeting, but I would like, just from what I heard and what I did read through the documents, just like to, again, like everyone said, commend the staff. This is a very similar process to what we've been through in District 97. So I know the work is not easy and we are still continuing to evolve in this area, but it's very much aligned to the things that we've been working on for several years. So I hope that as our students matriculate to District 200, you'll see there are different responses to the approaches that are being put forth, because it is very similar to the way we approach discipline in District 97. And some of that is from a teaching, standpoint, and not to respond to behavior as punitive. Students are asking for something and responding in some kind of way, and to approach it from this angle, I think overall, as the students then become young adults is, and learn to handle conflict, like others have said, is definitely the way to go. So kudos to you for taking on this challenge and working with the students from this very different perspective.
Thank you, Felicia. Linda, you had your hand up, and then Lincoln and Melanie.
Yes, I just wanted to thank this group, first of all, for helping us to be a think tank on this, but also say that in terms of what we've learned from this experience is that you have to stay the course. And that is often difficult in the moments. As Janelle mentioned, the start of the school year being difficult. I mean, individuals from all levels were like, this is not gonna, we can't keep going this way. We have to, and you have to believe in the process and the work that went into the development of this. We stress all the time that this is an education plan. We are an education institution. So we're not just about pointing out and punishing, but actually trying to change behavior. So to change behavior means that you're actually observing a behavior that needs changing in order to address it. So students give us the opportunity to address them in such a way that teaches them new skills for how to handle behaviors that may be manifesting in themselves that they aren't even pleased with, but need someone to stop long enough to try to show another way for handling that. And the school is that place for so many students. So this was a huge shift for us when we went into it. There are a lot of feelings and emotions around it, but staying the course is the only way to see what the benefits can be. And I do believe that we see some benefits that we want to make sure that we are emphasizing to our staff who's here, and that we're all spreading the news as well about how these things can grow us as a institution and grow our students to the place where we want them to be in terms of contributing members of society that have the tools and the skills necessary to be their best. So appreciative for the thinking that went into just the creation of and the acceptance of the BEP.
Thank you. And I want to, I'm gonna mess with our order for a second here, because the two groups of people that are instrumental in our feedback here are students and teachers, and a teacher has the hand up. And so I really want to prioritize the voices of our students and our teachers. So JP, I'm going to come to you, and then I'm going to go to Lincoln, and then Melanie and Callan. Susan.
Gina, I don't like the cuts. Jeez.
I know. And I was thinking JP doesn't like to cut the line, but you know what? We need teacher voice. The people who are actually living this plan on a daily basis are the teachers and the students. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your input.
Building a little bit on what Janelle said, the start of and what Ms. Parker said, start of the year was tough. And like, it wasn't like dangerous behavior, but I tried to like center myself in that, because I teach freshmen in the afternoon, that essentially I was teaching like 7th graders because they haven't been through all those transformative experiences that all of us went through in 7th and 8th grade. But, you know, and teachers expressed, we were pretty vocal in some of our frustrations in this process. And, you know, we met with various administrators, we had various meetings on it. We've implemented some changes. You know, it's not perfect, but I don't think there's ever been a high school that's been perfect in behavior. And I think one of the most important positive changes has been students being in class. You know, the old in-school system drove me crazy and drove many of my colleagues crazy because, you know, we need our students in front of us. You know, sending them an assignment is not equivalent to having them in front of us. Having, you know, even if it's just a 25-second conversation, you know, I'm going to pick on Josh again, even if it's just me putting my hand on Josh's shoulder to kind of center him back to focus. Those are invaluable. That can't be done. So you know, we still have work to go as staff, as faculty, as students, as administrators. We're still you know, kind of figuring it out as we go along. But I'm excited about some of these changes, and I think one of our biggest issues was the violence and the safety of our students. Not necessarily that we want these extreme punishments, but we want our students safe, and we want and with cell phones, usually if there's a fight, that fight's being seen by thousands of people by the end of the day, and those scare us. And then the safety of our students is a primary concern. So seeing that, that I think change in like the level 2 is really important, and a really positive change, because a one-on-one fight, we can deal with it. When it becomes multiple people, or when a student is attacked by multiple people, that really puts not only the student who's being attacked, but all the people around in danger as well. So thank you very much for your work, deans and counselors and social workers and administrators. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, JP. And I see another educator hand up, Sana.
I agree with everything that JP said, and some thoughts just to kind of add on is that I think, one of the things to be transparent about as we move forward is, I think, communicating it to teachers. It's like something I experienced personally. Like, I've been coached by the deans, and I absolutely love that. And one of the things I heard from my colleagues was like, well, why can't this change? Like, I felt like sometimes a lot of the pressure was put on the deans when really it wasn't within their control. It was the behavior education plan. So this gives them more flexibility to use their discretion in certain situations, which kind of creates actually more of a partnership, in my opinion, personally.
Thank you, Sana. Lincoln.
Hey, thank you for making that executive decision, because that answered part of my question. I was eager to hear how teachers were responding. And I'm glad to, having the advantage of being here for a while, to see where we've come is very inspiring, and that's part of the things I'm grateful for. I have a general comment and a more specific one. I think in general, as we're being asked to kind of weigh in on changes, I think we spoke to it, but it's just really helpful to just have a clearer sense of what we're doing now versus what we're proposing. And I think we kind of got there, but I was having a hard time. It's like, and all the changes make sense, but I didn't immediately understand what the current state was. And so I just think that it's easier to get a sense of that. And I noticed that one of the suggestions regarded the failure to serve detention. And I know that once upon a time, that was like the -- infraction, like so much of a thing that it had its own report, literally. And so on the current spectrum, where does detention fall in the current levels? And what's your thoughts on where it should be going forward?
So if I could take that second question first. So you are right. Detentions, tardies, hero, Plasco, failure to serve were just, quite problematic. And so we don't have those. We don't have that tardy system anymore. We do not have in place what was producing all of those suspensions. But what we forgot was that there are certain behaviors that don't rise to the level of an in-school reflection or something like that, that a detention after school or a detention during lunch is appropriate. And we were so anxious to remove everything, Lincoln, that you just talked about. We really forgot that we will still give a detention from time to time for minor behaviors. And so we forgot it. And so we need to, that is why we are asking to bring it back. Certain lunch, especially lunch, it's probably more so lunch than anything else, where we might give a restricted lunch detention because somebody's, tossing an orange, what I'm saying, some lunch misbehaviors that often result in you need to go have lunch with a different person. So that is the reason. We are in no way looking to bring back the things that you are mentioning. We just need to be sure to cover when we give a detention, what, will happen if a student fails to serve. And it is never with a desire to go to an in-school like it used to be.
Thank you, Janelle. And I'm just going to hop in for a second because that was my question too, Lincoln, was about that reintroduction of the detention. And I'm curious about the detentions, and are they used as a reteaching? Are they used as you just go sit somewhere? What is actually done with I've read enough things that have demonstrated that detention is not necessarily effective without some level of reteaching. And so just holding a student or keeping them in a space or preventing them from going to lunch with their friends is not necessarily, it's still very punitive. So what actually is happening in that? And then also in addition to that, like when my boys were at the high school, they got a detention for being tardy for 3 times. And then if they didn't serve that detention, then it doubled, or there was some of these things. So that is not what's happening here, right? Okay.
It is, no, I think as Janelle like shakes her hand, no, this is, I think, very different. And one of the things I can definitely speak to is that anytime there's a detention, it's always a teachable moment. So there have not been situations where, we put students in a room or they sit outside of our office without having some type of conversation as it relates to the why behind, what, they're missing out on, whether it's a lunchtime, they're missing out on, before school or after school, they have to serve a detention. There's always a conversation. And so that's from any level of infraction. Obviously, the higher level ones require a different level of a conversation, but this is always a teachable moment to build that capacity so that students understand, the reasoning why, but then how we can make better choices kind of moving forward. But absolutely. And then we're not, tardies are no longer detention given. So that's also slightly different. And so those aren't things that we will give. And Janelle, correct me if I'm wrong, if we're going to be giving any detentions for tardies.
No.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a feeling that changed. I just, it was such an interesting experience because when my daughter was there, she was way more late than they were. And I never got a notice about her being tardy. But when my boys were there, the boys got it immediately. And they weren't nearly as late as she was. So, Melanie, thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
Hi, thank you. Let me take my so there's a couple of things. I did get a chance to skim through it. It was 40 pages long. And I also even read over the bullying, which is my platform and something that I care very much about. And I went back and also read the definition of bullying according to District 200, because I still don't feel that we have clearly defined it. And even after reading it, I still did not feel that we've clearly defined bullying and more so cyberbullying to a point where if someone would read it, they would understand what their child can and cannot get in trouble for. Which leads me to my first observation, feedback or question. And that is what I found in being a part of a parent organization is that after the child is reprimanded, the parent is pissed, both sides, the child, the aggressor child, or the child that's the victim. And it's more times than not because they don't know that kids can get suspensions, but they don't understand our system. And so my question, first question is, or suggestion is that we include parents in that education piece, even if it is a teachable moment. So when the kid goes home and they're talking about their side and what happened, the parent can be armed with information of, well, this is how it goes down at OPRF, or that was supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? Versus having our parents, flip out because they're like, why is this happening? That was a dumb thing to send him home for, or call me at work for, or whatever. And so I don't want to forget the parents and them understanding what can happen with their child at school. And then piggybacking off of that, as we're teaching children how to handle conflict, I would love it if we were also, as adults, doing better with our conflict, because we're supposed to be the example. And whether we think it or not, when kids are walking past the cafeteria, when they're walking past the front desk, and adults are having conversation or having an open conflict, students see it. And so I still think that there's some inward work that the staff, even as a parent working with a teacher, it could benefit from. And, and being able to respect the difference of opinion when we're in a room or when we're discussing things about our children. The next thing is, well, I already talked about that. So the last thing, I am still coming around as a mom. I'm still coming around to this idea of teachable moments. I am part of that, what I feel is the last generation of tough love. And sometimes punishment is just punishment. That's the, you don't, and I tell my children all the time, you made a bad decision, but you don't get to choose what happens after. And that's just life. And so I'm still wrapping my head around that. And sometimes, if a child is supposed to be punished, it's punishment. They're kids. And you can ask any child, why did you do what you did? And most of the time, they don't know. They don't have a serious reflection or a feeling of remorse. They're being kids. They forgot what they did 2 minutes ago. That's why, when we talk about how girls play and how boys play and how they can fight and be friends 2 seconds later, and then the girls can hold grudges. You know what I'm saying? So, sometimes the punishment is just that, you lose out on doing something because you did something wrong. So I'm still trying to come around to the teachable moments when it can be applicable. In a bullying situation, sometimes I think depending on the victim, they just want their aggressor gone. They're not looking for them to be a friend. They're looking for a person who did however egregious it was, to not be there because it causes stress for the child or trauma or whatever. So those are my things. Want to make sure we include the adults. Want to make sure that adults are being the example. Want to make sure that cyberbullying is defined even further, and that these teachable moments do continue to make a difference.
No, Melanie, thank you for your feedback. And I think you made something that makes me want to make a point too, that when we do, both things can be true. So offering, that punishment or that disciplinary consequence, as well as, that reflective conversation. And oftentimes we are coaching the kids because some of them have not built that capacity around reflecting on what they've done or why they've done it. However, there are instances where we will not bring kind of the aggressor with the victim together because it's just not appropriate. So in a situation, maybe we're considering rape or just any situation where the victim is not comfortable coming forth, just please know that those are conversations that are had in a space that, but if a student does not want to speak to another student, in certain situations, we will absolutely respect their wishes as well, because we want to be mindful that it can also be very triggering to speak to that person again.
And then Melanie, can I ask, are you, I appreciate the parent education piece. I think we could truly benefit from some like start of the year education about this plan and this book. And so I appreciate that feedback. And then I want to ask about when you're asking about how cyberbullying is spelled out in the policies. Am I hearing you say, yes, we need to say when you are on Snapchat and you say this is cyberbullying? Because I'm reading what I see what you're saying, very adult definition of it. But I want to make sure that that's what I'm hearing from you, that we need to give examples that include what kids are doing today.
If you all will indulge me, I'll read you the first sentence and I will be quick. Cyberbullying means bullying through the use of technology or any electronic communication, including without limitation, any transfer to signs, signals, writing, images, sounds, data, or intelligence of any nature transmitted in whole or in part by wire, radio, electromagnetic system, photoelectronic, instant messages, or fax smile communications. No kids are using faxes. That's the first sentence. Gotcha. Social media platforms, DMing, sending things such as racial comments, racial slurs, photographs of, that's the sort of thing, because as a parent reading this, that's to anybody's imagination of what they want this to be. Well, that's what you think it is. That's not what we thought it was. No swastikas, no use of the N-word, no markings of no blackface. Yes, I think we absolutely need to give those examples to be specific, because this is a start. But as a parent reading this, they're like, oh, okay. Well, it was on Snapchat, so this don't apply to me.
Hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Cal.
Hi, I just wanted to thank everyone for putting this together. I just have like a couple of points. This is a great idea, and I think numerous other schools have it, and it's good that we have it, and ours is a little bit more complete. I've read some at other schools. Number two, I think we have to take into consideration that this has to be fully enforced across all lines, across all racial, ethnic, whatever, because I'm sure the N-word is being said in the school, and I never read about it, but every time someone says an anti-Semitic remark, it makes the Wednesday Journal. So that's not equal at all. If we're going to put everything in the paper, let's put everything in the paper, because this thing needs to be enforced. It just can't be a piece of paper. And we have to educate, just like it was just said, we have to educate everyone on what the offenses are. Now, my last thing is a little story. 5 years ago, I was at a block party in River Forest. Black gentleman came up to me, rounded up all the parents, the black parents, and said, whatever you do, don't let your kids fight at OPRF if they go to our OPRF. We're like, what are you talking about? Don't let your kids fight. Just sit there and take the punches and fall down bloody and do not fight. So, of course, we asked why. He said, my son graduated from OPRF, went to NYU, then he went to Harvard Law. He's trying to get in the law firm. Oh, he's passing the bar. He was trying to get his bar license. The fight came up from high school. Now, mind you, this didn't like hold up anything for a long period of time, but he's Harvard Law and he's going to a top 10 firm. And now all of a sudden, the black guy's application is the only thing being held back a week because they're settling this stupid fight from high school. So we have to educate the kids that even though they're getting punished for whatever offense they've done, it's going to be on some type of record. So if they want to be a U.S. Marshal, a state policeman or something like that, or a fireman, it's going to come up. So we have to let everyone know that there really are repercussions. That's it.
I just want to piggyback to that, Calvin, really quickly. This is on record. A few CCBs ago with Nate Rouse, I asked that very question. Is it true or is it not true that student records are available to colleges after they graduate? And his words, this is on record, he said no.
Correct. Disciplinary records. Is that what you're asking about, disciplinary records?
I want us to revisit this. Greg, can we come back to this? Because we have 3 minutes left and you're muted, Greg. I can't hear you. Or maybe there's something with the sound. Can you all hear him? There you go.
How about now? Good?
Yeah,
there you go. I really respect it. I know a lot of people want to speak, but I just want to, there's clarity needed. There's a legal clarity needed in what's been described here that we have to sit on. And so, you know, we hear stories and they're important. And I'm not denying anybody's experience and understandings and all that by any stretch. Please don't misunderstand me that way. But there is something very legal embedded in the story that we have to hold on to. Thanks. I'm done talking. Bye.
Yeah, no, that's what I was like. That's why I was like, this is a different kind of conversation for us to have. It's not a 3-minute conversation. So it's something for us to discuss. And Greg, you all will revisit that and bring that back to us. Okay. Susan, we got 3 minutes. So that means that you have 2 because I need, that means that you and Laura each got 1 minute. Okay. Susan, you got 1, Laura's got 1, I got 1.
Okay. You know how I go on, so I'm glad you're giving me time limits. So thank you. As a community member here, first of all, in so many points I wanted to say, oh yes, what he said, what she said, absolutely. I'm inspired, kind of summarizes some of that. As a community member, I want to say that I've seen some things in the Wednesday Journal by Dr. Hardy, and we need more publishing in the journal about this, what you are doing here, what we are doing here. And it needs to go to the field of education. And I'm glad this is being recorded, because this is data for somebody to go back. I think somebody needs to not only just track for internal purposes to improve things, but we are breaking ground here. We know we're breaking ground. Others need to know what we're doing. It is incredible. I cannot overstate it. To do this kind of transformation so quickly and so intelligently with such smart and relational, following that relational core, and not just having a plan for it, but actually implementing it. And this conversation, and you bringing in students first, teachers next, and then we have parents represented. These voices are just gold, and the process is incredible. Don't underestimate what you are doing here. And it needs to be published to the community, because of course, as we started our conversation today, we are living in this culture that is so siloed. People only talk to the
30 seconds, Susan.
Yes. So you get my message. You understand what I'm saying, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Yes, I wanted to echo that, but I think, maybe now isn't the appropriate time, but as we move forward, how the word about this gets out into the community. And then also just a very specific question that doesn't have to be answered now, but something that I was thinking about was I'm not sure, as someone who's just coming into this, who determines if you remove level 2 and there becomes a little more ability to decide if someone gets 1 to 3 days, who is the person who makes that determination? And then what safeguards are in place to make sure that it's not specific, that specific consequences aren't given by some people and not by others, and that certain students aren't targeted and things like that. So I'm sure you guys have thought through that. I'm just not aware. And that was a question that I had, so.
Great question.
I can quickly
go ahead.
answer that.
Yep, go ahead,
The deans meet on every case that is possibly going to result in multiple days of suspension. And we agree on the decision so that there is not, if you get Ms. Bishop, you might get this. And if you get Ms. Walton, you might get that. So we are intentional about that very thing, Laura. Thank you for asking that question.
And also, Janelle, I think too, the making sure that if it's, that it's not based on a student's demographic, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so that it's that you're you all are evaluating the instances equitably across the board.
And actually naming, if this were a white kid, how would people feel? I'm proud to say, just as a Black woman working in this high school, that we do have those conversations and are comfortable because of the work that we have done around race in this school through the years. And we're not where we should be, but we are not where we used to be. We are making progress, that people are comfortable naming that in every instance, putting it on the table for discussion.
Thank you. And that would be a racial equity lens, because you're actually asking the question, would this be the same outcome were the student white if the parents were not advocating at this level, right? Those are the questions. And especially in our community, those are the questions that have to be asked, because the fear mongering that happens from community into the schools and that cycle of fear, that has to be addressed so that people are treated equitably, because just because some parents have louder voices and will push an issue more than other parents who aren't aware of the resources at their fingertips, we need to still make sure we're doing it equitably. Yeah, we're 3 minutes over. I want to thank you all so much. I feel like this conversation yielded a lot of good information. Most importantly, want to thank Sebastian and Josh for providing that student voice and input, and for staying with us the whole time too. I hope that you all found it valuable and that you come back, and that you definitely come back. We really need your voices in all the spaces. And then, of course, to our teacher staff who's here too, JP, Sana, I'm not sure who our other educators are, but, and then the admin, man, okay, you're making me feel like I am leaving. Yes, please bring your friends, as Ms. McQueen put in the chat. You're making me feel like what we talked about when I came on this committee. When I first came in the CCV, I'm just going to say this very quickly. Greg had just gotten here and I had just gotten here, and we ended up being in the same small group. And to see, right, and to see where we are now from where that very first night, wow, okay. So it's really forward moving. Not that we have everything figured out, but man, great work. Yeah, I'm so grateful. So I have a few more things I'd love to push us on a little bit though before my time on the board is up. You have at least one more year with me. And so we will do more, but thank you all so much. And thank you everyone for your time tonight and for your commitment to our work here. And we will just keep going. We will keep doing it. Thanks again.
Good night, everybody.
Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Oh,
Have a good night.
Wait, I need to make a motion to adjourn. We need a motion to adjourn. What am I doing?
Motion.
I second. Melanie
Thank you. Thank you.
That was
you, Gail.
close.
I'm just used to closing a circle. We closed the circle. Thank you, everyone. I commit to keep the circle safe.
Thank
and
you,
we're done.
Faith, and thanks, Janelle.
No, if no one's opposed to
Thank
us
you all.
adjourning, then we adjourned. No opposition. We're good to go. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Gail.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you
night.
all.
You. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Time.